Welcome back to the Fanatics View Hockey Show. My name is James Lynch. We got a returning guest here today, my guy Avry. No one knows the Edmonton Oilers better than this guy, and I'm very happy to get him back on here because it's been an interesting season for the Oilers. Of course, getting the win last night over the Ottawa Senators. We'll get to all the action from last night in a bit, but first and foremost, Avry, how you doing, and where am I getting you today?
I am doing very well, James. I'm in downtown Edmonton right now. I'm at Commonwealth Stadium right now. So when I'm done here, when I'm done doing this interview with you, I'm going to go talk to Ed Avry for his return to the Elks franchise.
Oh, cool. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, how was the Grey Cup?
It was a blast. Going to be in Vancouver for the full week doing the media day, CFL awards, seeing Argonauts win their 19th Grey Cup title. It was a fun game. You know, I would have pegged in that game though, but seeing Toronto dominate that fourth quarter was very unexpected for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it was a really interesting Grey Cup, and too bad my province didn't exactly have the best weather on the weekend. It was, I know, freezing rain on Saturday, so hopefully it stayed a bit warm. But let's talk about the Oilers, 5-3 winners last night in Ottawa. How crucial was this win with, I know they had the 2-game skid, and, one of them was an overtime loss, but it seemed like this really rejuvenated the team.
No, it really did. You got 2 goals from Connor McDavid. You got points from Leon Draisaitl. You got a Ryan Nugent-Hopkins goal, someone who's badly needed a better start to his season. You got points from Derek Ryan. This is a game in which Edmonton, from lines 1, 2, 3, 4, had a really strong game against Ottawa. And you had Stuart Skinner having a great bounce-back game, making 27 saves in the victory.
How big was that goal from Evan Bouchard last night, especially what happened in the Leafs game? I know everyone was after him, and then I think people forgot about it after that goal last night.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing about Evan Bouchard is that he is a dominant offensive D-man. He can get you points, he can score, and going through what felt like everybody in the building in Ottawa, including the hot dog vendor, that was candidate for Goldie. That was a candidate for goal of the year easily, and it goes to show why you don't bench or you do not trade an Evan Bouchard in Edmonton.
Yeah, I know people getting a little crazy about that one. And obviously, the optics weren't good with the loss because he basically gave the puck to the Leafs. But still, I think that was a good way to sort of redeem themselves. I want to go all the way back, though. Last time I had you on, we were talking about some of the offseason acquisitions. What have you made of those additions so far this season? I'm talking about Victor Arvidsson. You've got, obviously, Jeff Skinner, and even someone like Vasily Podkolzin, who I don't think has scored his first goal yet. But what's sort of the temperature right now with some of the free agent signings?
So for a few of those guys, I'll start with Paul Colson. He's someone who's slotted into the roster nicely now. He's been a big help defensively, defensive forward, been physical, been good around the puck. Even though he hasn't scored a goal yet, he's still able to make plays, create chances, and it's been a great aspect for the Oilers in terms of a guy who can contribute on line 3 and line 4. When you go to Jeff Skinner, he's someone who also has had ways to get to the front of the net, get chances, but he hasn't been able to stick on the top two lines, which has been a little bit odd because he was brought in to be a guy who could go on the wing, play with Draisaitl, or need be play with McDavid. And he's right now been kind of stuck as a 3rd or 4th line guy, only getting a few opportunities to play top line minutes. So it's a bit confusing as to why Chris Knobloch hasn't played Jeff Skinner more, because when given those opportunities in the top 6, he's only shown that he can be that guy who scored 20, 25, 30 goals in the past in Buffalo and in Carolina. And going to Victor Arvidsson now, he's someone who's been a little bit banged up. I know people have wanted a little bit more from him. But when healthy, he's found chance to get shots on net and create chances. But right now, he struggled with being healthy at Edmonton.
We saw a similar situation last year where the Oilers got off to a bit of a slow start. I'd say this year's gone a lot better than the beginning of last year. Last year was just, there was a lot of things going wrong there. But but also with that came the really impressive win streak that they have. Again, Edmonton's coming off a win last night, but is there a sense of optimism that Edmonton will turn this around? I mean, maybe not the type of run they went on last year, but they're also not in the same hole they were in last year either.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's a good point. This team isn't in a 2-9-1 hole. They're not going to need 16 straight wins to get back into things in the Western Conference. But I think one thing is that, they're finding ways to right now this year win gritty, tough games. And, I do admit some of these games have been a tad bit boring. The flash has been a little bit reduced in terms of these wins. But there's optimism because they are right in that playoff spot bubble going into American Thanksgiving. They're not in dire straits right now. But I think when you get past these games here, when you're going into December, January, they should be just fine, I think, in my mind.
Yeah, I'm looking at the standings right now. Currently ranked seventh in the Western Conference. They do have 2 games in hand compared to some of the other teams, but yeah, again, like I think it's still very early. I guess my other question as well. One of the things we saw obviously was the big hit on Darnell Nurse. We're hearing, I think, week to week. Is there any update on when we might see him back? Because that's obviously a big key for their back end with Nurse being out.
I've heard probably about 3 or 4 games before Darnell Nurse does return to the roster,
nice.
possibly 5 games. So he's not gonna be out for that long, but still, losing Darnell Nurse for those few games will hurt. I know he's had a tough season, but we've seen times where Darnell Nurse this season has been able to figure things out offensively. Again, another D man who's known for carrying the puck into the zone, playing physical. So it's a good thing he's not out long term. And that was a situation in which, look at the Ryan Reeves hit. I'm a very big advocate in the NHL going into the way of the IIHF's rule of no tolerance for hits to the head, because we talk about wanting to be safe. We want to talk about being aware of concussions and head trauma. And that to me was probably one of the more reckless hits I've seen this season. And I'm quite surprised Ryan Reeves didn't get more than 5 games. I'm sure the Leafs are lucky that they're not going to lose him for more than 5 games.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because as a Canucks fan or someone that obviously watches the Canucks, we saw this exact same thing happen with Tanner Jeannot and Brock Besser. And Brock Besser's still not back. We did hear yesterday he's going to be skating, but I don't know. Let me know what you think of this rule. And I know everyone's different, but I don't think you should be allowed back in the game until the player who got hurt is back. Like Brock Besser's out, Tanner Jeannot's back playing. I got a problem with that. 3 games, and it was pretty obvious he went and actually headhunted him. And then we see the same thing with Reeves. I know this happens every season, maybe not to this degree, this close together, because obviously Ovechkin's out too. That's another one where, debatable whether the guy was trying to hurt him or not. But you're right. Like this is going to be bad news for the NHL if this keeps happening, because what you're going to have is your stars out, and you're going to have these guys that, basically are getting a slap on the wrist. That's how I see a 3 to 5 game suspension, 5 for Reeves and 3 for Jeannot. What do you think of that?
No, it's not a bad idea. Like there should be a more tangible punishment for hits like that, and should make guys think about coming in hot like that, charging from 10 steps away, exploding through a guy, if they know that if a player they hit's going to be out for, say, 10, 12, 20 games, so will they. That will make guys think twice about laying down a hit that'll be dangerous. Even if they don't intend to, it's still a play that's reckless, and they got to think twice about making that kind of hit.
Yeah, it's frustrating again because like usually you got these players that are I can understand if it's like a regular play, right? But I mean with Jeannot and with Reeves, there was intent there. There was intent to hurt the player. And listen, I'm not someone who wants to get rid of hitting or anything like that. Like I like the physicality of the game, but we also want to see players be able to play the game properly and it not be malicious. And that's sort of what it's looked like in both the situations. Hopefully, Nurse going to be back here pretty soon. Bit of news yesterday with the Oilers as well. Kasperi Kapanen, the Oilers claiming him off waivers from the St. Louis Blues. I imagine he'll get in because I don't. Did he end up playing last night? I don't think he did. Right? I didn't catch the actual game. Yeah. What are you sort of expecting from this signing, and what do you think it says about what the Oilers are trying to do right now?
Kasperi Kapanen, his career has been a weird one where he's bounced around the league before with St. Louis, Toronto, Pittsburgh. Hasn't really found a place to truly stick and make an impact for very long. We had the 1 year in Toronto. We had the 20-goal season in 2018, 2019. But other than that, it's been a very up and down tenure for him in the NHL. What the Oilers are bringing him in for is clearly to add some more speed to the roster after losing Warren Fogle, losing Dylan Holloway, losing Ryan McLeod. Those are 3 guys who are among the faster names in the NHL. And Kapanen brings that speed to the forward group. So he's someone who I think they're going to try and put in third line role, fourth line role, try and jumpstart the bottom 6 when it comes to impact, in my mind.
Like I mentioned, it hasn't really been ideal for the Oilers this season. Is it just about riding the ship, or do you see them making, any potential moves? We've heard about them wanting to get another defenseman or possibly something up front. Do you see any activity happening? I think the issue right now is a lot of teams don't have any cap space, right?
No, exactly, and it's Edmonton included. They got to figure out how to clear some cap room up. But I think by the trade deadline, I know they're probably going to make a move for a defender. They've been linked to Marcus Pettersson in terms of the name that they could possibly get at the deadline. So yeah, I think if they do make any moves at the deadline, it's going to be for some more help on the back end.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what a return like that looks like because we've already seen, obviously Lindgren going to San Jose. It seems like it's going to be a premium, especially right shot defenseman, right? Like that's sort of the, the unicorn in the NHL. If you can get one, you got to pay a heavy price for it as well. On that note, do the Oilers miss Cody Ceci this year, do you think? I know they had to move him for sort of cap reasons as well. I know he got a lot of backlash in Edmonton, but he also logged a lot of minutes. Do you think there's a hole there? I know they brought in obviously Edmondson, but do you feel like the absence of Ceci is being felt this season?
I would say maybe a slight hole is missed, but with Ty Emberson, if he can fill in that hole by getting more comfortable in Edmonton, and he's shown he's starting to get more comfortable playing with Brett Kulak, very physical defenseman. I think the more Emerson plays in Edmonton and the more he plays with a guy like Kulak who's very steady, I think he can make up that hole as he develops his game more as an NHLer. I mean, I saw a comparison. Someone compared him to a Jason Smith type of the D-man who was very physical, tough to play against along the wall. If Emerson can also hone his offensive side more, I think he should be able to fill that gap that CC left in that trade to San Jose.
What would you say has been the biggest disappointment for the Oilers so far this season?
The biggest disappointment. Ooh, that's a really good one. Biggest disappointment.
Yeah, I hate to be negative, but we'll look at the positives as well too. Don't worry, this isn't all negative. But I'm curious just from your lens, because I obviously watch the Oilers a lot. Being watching a lot of the Western Conference teams. I think for the most part, I'd say the free agent signings have been okay, but I don't think any have really popped out. Would you say maybe that's a disappointment, or is there anything else you're looking at with the team where you think things could be improved a bit more?
I would say the big disappointment was seeing this team jump really hard to try and get the fourth line guys signed quickly. Like a great example is Matthias Janmark, someone who, yes, had a good postseason, stepped up in the Cup final, but the need to go in and get a guy like that when there are a lot of guys who can copy Matthias Janmark's role and give him a no trade clause, that was a bit surprising. That's the kind of guy where you can go in free agency and find a guy who does a little bit more than what Janmark does for your bottom six, and he's had a slow start this year again. So I think I'm a little bit disappointed in Edmonton so quick to tie up money and no trade clause into his contract so quickly once the season ended.
Yeah, and I think a key thing to a lot of the successful teams, and this is, I'll just bring up Pittsburgh as an example because they were here a couple weeks ago, and I know you guys have played the Penguins as well, but they have too many guys in the bottom that are making too much money. Like you have like a Cody Glass who's making $2 million when you can get someone that's, can do a similar role at a way cheaper price tag. And when you've got a team that has so much tied up in Erik Karlsson, who's not playing top, he's not playing well. I mean, you've got defensemen kind of running circles around him, or forwards, I should say. That's where I think teams run into problems. So I agree with you, where I think one of the key things for a lot of these successful teams is managing your cap properly in the areas you need it to, right? Like you don't want to be paying someone, $2 million for like a fourth or third line role if they're not providing that value, right? So I think, like on the flip side, I think you're getting great value with Podkolzin. I mean, it was a low risk move. Canucks basically traded, actually kind of looking back now, I think the Canucks made a mistake because they signed Daniel Sprong, who I think was supposed to replace Podkolzin if, because they're like, okay, well, we're going to get something for Podkolzin, but then they ended up trading Sprong. So it's like, why wouldn't you just keep the guy that, I know Sprong had more upside, but why not keep the guy you've developed as opposed to trading and end up trading Sprong, who lasted 10 games under Rick Tocchet. We know if you don't play defense, you're going to get traded. So that's pretty much the theme there in Vancouver. But what about surprises? Has there been anything this year that maybe has exceeded your expectations or something from the Oilers that has really popped out?
Ooh, that's a great. I'm trying to think surprises.
I'm putting you on the spot, Avery. I can't make this too easy on you. I gotta dig deep,
Oh man, I'm trying to think of surprises. What's been a really surprising thing for me? I would probably say it probably is for most people here, it probably is Podkolzin finding a way nicely into that roster. I think there were some people who were wondering, I don't remember when he was first signed here, some people were wondering, oh, wasn't that guy a bust in Vancouver? So I think to some people, seeing him slot nicely has been a surprise in the market. And also, too, I think some people were a little bit surprised with how Emerson has played, because after the first couple of games with Darnell Nurse, Emerson struggled a little bit. So people were wondering, oh, it's a little bit too much expectation to put on a 22-year-old guy who played in San Jose to come here and stabilize Darnell Nurse. But when you saw him with Kulak, things changed just like that. So he's showing that, yes, he can be a D-man for a long time in Edmonton. And much like Podkolzin, if Podkolzin stays strong defensively and starts to find his knack when it comes to scoring-wise, I think Podkolzin could be a great asset in the long run for Edmonton.
Two more quick things and I'll get you out of here. I know you got some work to do, but some great insight on the Oilers. Kind of looking across the league, we had a head coach fired yesterday, Jim Montgomery. I personally think that's not going to fix the issues. I think Boston should be moving on from Don Sweeney. What was your sort of takeaway from the Bruins, firing their coach?
Yeah, no, I'm in the exact same boat on that. I thought Jim Montgomery had done a great job with the Boston Bruins, getting them to playoff spots, getting them to the best record in NHL history. I know it resulted in losing to Florida early, but the common denominator for these Boston losses has been Sweeney and Neely still in the organization, still thinking that they know best. So I would have kept Montgomery, even though yes, right now Boston is at 8-9-3. I think putting all the blame on his head is an easy out for the Bruins management when there's a lot more blame to go in that franchise.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And then one more team I just wanted to ask about, the Penguins. Things are not looking good. Goaltending's a mess. Their defense, I said Carlson's not really performing. How much of a leash is Mike Sullivan on? Just because the weird thing is he's loved by the fans and Fenway loves him, right? So it's like, I don't know what they're going to do. And I don't even think they can make any like big trade right now other than maybe like a Marcus Pettersson. I don't know. How do you see things unfolding in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, that's the big thing. When you're a coach that's beloved, by the fans, management, everything, it's tough to let them go. So I do think that his time might be coming up, because we see Pittsburgh right now. This isn't a team that is a cup contender right now. We're seeing their window closing. They're probably going to be heading towards a rebuild most likely. So I could possibly see his time coming up if they're not at least threatening for a playoff spot come mid-December in my mind.
Avry, great stuff as always. Really appreciate that, man. Go enjoy your interviews. Anything you got coming up you want to let my audience know about? Anything you're writing or anything you got going on? And obviously plug your social media handles as well.
Yeah, of course. You guys can follow me on Twitter or on X at Avry, at AVRY. Follow me on AvrySports.com and Hockey News. I'm doing some final Grey Cup recap recap articles, just recapping the whole week and what I learned from the game, the CFL awards, and just in general.
There we go. Avry, thanks a lot, man. Enjoy, and we'll definitely get you back on here soon in a little bit, catching up on the Oilers. Appreciate it, man.
Of course, James. Anytime, buddy.
There you go. That is Avry joining us here. Hockey News and other outlets, covers the CFL. If you missed that off the top, CFL gets a bad rap, I think, overall, but it's a good product. We had the Grey Cup here in Vancouver. I did not go. I mean, if the Lions had made the finals, I probably would have considered it, but not a whole lot of interest in Toronto and Winnipeg in that Grey Cup final. But yeah, go check out Avry. All right, let's get into everything we got on the channel from last night on Fanatics View, just to get you guys up to speed on what is on the channel. And then we'll get to some questions. John, I do see your questions in the chat. We'll get to those in a sec. So looking here, we got some Vancouver Canucks stuff. Obviously, the Canucks coming up short. Listen, I was not disappointed at all in the game that the Canucks played last night. Considering they didn't have JT Miller, Connor Garland had to leave the game because his wife was giving birth. Brock Besser's still out. You still don't have Demko. They went 4-3 with one of the best teams in the league. I was fine with that. I expected them. I was telling all my friends before the game happened, I said the Rangers are going to blow them out, because we've seen games like this throughout the season where the Canucks have played good teams and looked terrible, like against New Jersey, 6-0. You had Tampa Bay earlier in the year. I thought this was going to be one of those games, the Canucks putting up a better fight, but we'll talk more about that game in a sec. But we got all your post-game stuff here with Rick Tocchet and Quinn Hughes. Obviously, the big news, JT Miller taking a leave of absence from the team. Donnie and Dolly's Rick Dollywall reporting that it's like a reset. Like, it doesn't seem like it's any sort of like substance abuse issues or any sort of team issues or anything like that. Rick Tocchet, if you heard his media availability yesterday, speaking very highly of JT Miller, saying he's lucky to have him on the team. So if I had to guess, I mean, again, don't want to speculate too much here, guys, but in my opinion, I think Miller's had a really rough go to the season. I believe he was injured in the preseason, and then, come the season, he's been dealing with something. He hasn't been playing his best. For a guy that's, emotional, self-proclaimed emotional, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has a different personality. I think it's probably good for him to take some time away. If this reset means he can come back and be even better and heal a little bit, I'm all for it. I get that you got to kind of grind through the season, but if you're only going to make things worse, which is what I'm assuming Miller was thinking, take some time off. I'd like to see more players do this. I think Pettersson, when he was going through his slump, if he wanted to take a game or two off, I think that's fine too. Thankfully, Pettersson has found his game, but you kind of get where I'm going with that. So we'll talk about the Canucks in a second. Anyways, we've got Florida Panthers stuff. Looks like so Canucks losing. We got the Panthers stuff from last night, also Panthers morning skate. Stuff from Boston, obviously lots of changes going on in Boston. I did mention there obviously the coach getting fired, Jim Montgomery, Zadorov and Lindholm not playing too well. I think Lindholm's got 2 goals in 20 games or something like that. So people are upset with everything there. Stuff from Utah. So again, this is your home for post and pre-game coverage. It's Hockey on Fanatics View. Make sure you check out all that content. That's the nice thing. It's all here in one spot as opposed to going to look for it elsewhere. Okay, so I mentioned it there with Avry, the Oilers getting the win last night. 3 goals in the first period for Edmonton. Ottawa now dropping below 500 with that loss. I still think Ottawa's going to make the playoffs, but I'll tell you one thing that I did notice a bit, and again, I just caught the highlights. I didn't watch the full game last night, is, they need a little bit more from Linus Ullmark. 26 saves on 31 shots. That's not going to get it done. I did have some questions about him signing with Ottawa before, because if you remember in Boston, he had a good stable of defensemen in front of him. And I think that benefited, that definitely helped his game a lot. He doesn't have that same type of defense in Ottawa. So I do wonder, how he's going to adjust. And Ottawa obviously signing him to a big contract. I think Allmark's going to be fine, but I think they do need a little bit more out of him. And for the Oilers, this is a good bounce back. I mentioned that Evan Bouchard goal. If you guys haven't seen it, actually, I'll see if I can pull it up on here. And you guys can, I don't think we'll get kicked off here. But, this is one of the nicest goals we've seen all season. I'll show it to you guys there. And then we'll get to the rest of the scores. Actually, no, I'll get to John's questions in a sec, but look at this Evan Bouchard goal. Watch this. Through the legs. Beautiful move. Chipping it in. I don't agree with Avry that it's the goal of the year. I think Quinn Hughes has scored a few better ones than that, but still, nice goal there from Evan Bouchard, who had a terrible game the day before. I don't think they have the defense to turn it around this year. Letting Broberg go and trading Ceci was not a great decision. I completely agree with you, John. That's why I brought up the Ceci thing. It's one of those things where the fans obviously were, and listen, fans are like this in Vancouver. They're like this everywhere. Toronto, you name it. Fans get on certain players, but then when they're gone and you realize they're logging a lot of minutes, you're like, maybe we should have kept them. But they had to trade Ceci, I think, to make the money work for Skinner and Arvidsson and these other guys that they brought in. So I think that's part of it. But it's certainly I think something that's being felt, and they just don't look. There's a lot of games where they fall apart. Especially if Nurse is out for a significant period, likely still a playoff team, not Stanley Cup threat. I completely agree, John. We are on the same page here. I don't know how, but here's the funny thing: there'll still be people in the media being like, "Well, they did this last year. They'll turn it around." That was pretty crazy what they did last year. They went on like a 20-game win streak. That's probably not going to happen again. And if we're going by that logic, which I agree with you that they're not going to be as good as last year, it means they're going to be lower when they make the playoffs, which means they're going to have to play harder teams. I'm with you. I don't think they're going to break through. And this is not me, not liking the Oilers or anything like that. It's like, I just don't think they haven't had any like statement games this year. Like, yes, they beat Ottawa yesterday. That's great. But Ottawa's, a borderline playoff team. If they're doing this to, your Winnipegs and your Dallases and these other teams, then I feel a little bit better. But I feel like Edmonton's playing a lot like Vancouver. Like, I think there's some games where they look good. I think some games they give away. Like, you lose 3-0 the other night that's the game I didn't bring up with Avry, but you lose 3-0 to Montreal. Like, you can't have games like that. You can't those should be gimme games. And yes, they're on the road, but Montreal's, slated to be one of the worst teams this year. You got to win games like that. And I say the same thing to Vancouver. You can't be losing to Nashville on Sunday. It was crazy. Boston looks to be in big trouble. You called it last summer. Lindholm isn't good anymore. Yes. And listen, it's not like not trying to brag or anything, but I just think Lindholm is not a first line center. I saw this firsthand in Vancouver last year. He played well in the playoffs. He can certainly elevate his game when that time comes, but you need him throughout the regular season, and he's not a first line center. I think a lot of the reason he had success when he was in Calgary a couple years back, when he was really putting up points, was Johnny Gaudreau, and he doesn't have that in Boston. Pasternak's great, but I don't think he's getting the same elevation in that as well. So yeah, Boston's in big trouble because they just signed Zadorov and Lindholm in the offseason. And personally, I think the Canucks dodged a bullet not re-signing him. Some of the other action last night, the Penguins, check this out. They were up 2-0 in the third period. Tampa Bay comes back and wins. This just shows you how good Tampa Bay is. But Pittsburgh now dropping to 7-10. I don't know what they're going to do because they have a lot of things tied up in the cap. I don't think they're. I don't know how much longer they can hold on to Mike Sullivan. They don't really have much cap space. Tristan Jarry, you see it there. Tristan Jarry allowed 3 goals in the game. What was his save percentage in that? How many saves did he make? Okay, he did get shot on a decent amount, but still, you're letting in 3 goals on 35 shots. That's not good. And then Braden Point elevating his game for Tampa Bay, and you see a really everyone kind of contributing here. And once again, the Tampa Bay Lightning finding a way to get it done. They are 10-6-1. And like I mentioned, the Penguins, they do get a point. They're now 7-10 on the season. Got the Wild beating the Blues yesterday. The Wild continue to have one of the best records in the league. I don't get this at all. Why they're playing so well. 12-3-3. This is pretty much the same team as last year, but they've really elevated things. And you're seeing, contributions from multiple players. You got Ryan Hartman, you got Brodin getting goals, 2 goals from Kaprizov, who looks like a contender this year. And the other big thing is the goaltending. You're getting all the saves you need from Philip Gustafsson, who's been playing outstanding for St. Louis. Obviously they're hurting from a few injuries, but Jordan Binnington, 24 saves, 27 goals, 27 shots, not 27 goals. That would be really bad. And then also we had the Jets beating the Panthers, a bit of revenge there. Jets scoring 3 goals in the third period. This is still the most dangerous team in the league right now, the Winnipeg Jets. Mark Scheifele has to be a shoo-in for the Four Nations, I think, at this point, with the way he's playing. A hat trick last night. Morgan Barron with 2 goals as well. Kyle Connor with a goal and an assist. And Hellebuck not needing to be super busy there, just needing to make 20 saves. On the other end with the Panthers, Bobrovsky also not needing to make a ton of saves. However, he lets in 6 goals. He let in 4 goals on the night. So, yeah, a little bit tough there. But again, these are 2 of the best teams in the league. That was a heavyweight tilt last night, if I've ever seen one. You got the Ducks beating the Blackhawks, 2 real rebuilding teams. Anaheim now 8-8 in the season, which I think they'd take that if you could have said that at the beginning of the season with how they're playing. And Chicago now dropping to 6-12-1. We'll look at the standings a little bit later. Still nothing from Ilya Mikheyev. Actually, is Mikheyev out? Was he even playing last night? Yeah, I think Mikheyev. Oh, no, I'm looking at the wrong team. Yeah, Connor Bedard with 2 assists, but it's been a little bit of a rough season for Connor Bedard as well. Mikheyev, 1 shot on goal, no points. Soderblom with 21 saves. And then obviously the Flames getting the win in the shootout last night. Flames are now 10-6, so they're just slightly ahead of Vancouver. They get it done in the shootout over the Islanders. Flames at home in that one. And, again, Varlamov and Dustin Wolf both getting their fair amount of shots in this one. Goal from Rasmus Andersson, who continues to play very well this season. And the finishing things off, I mentioned there, the Rangers and the Canucks. Canucks dropped to 9-6-3 there. 9-9 on the season because of obviously 3 OT losses. Not good, but again, I think we got to look at the context there. No Miller, no Demko. We are hearing that Demko is close to returning. There's some thought that maybe Tuesday in Boston is when he'll be making that season debut. But I don't think goaltending's really been the issue for Vancouver. I mean, the other night against Nashville, Kevin Lankinen definitely let in some bad goals, but that hasn't been the story. The story's been the Canucks having a hard time breaking out, having a hard time defending. I mean, that second pair with Carson Soucy and Tyler Myers has been atrocious. Like, there is some talk that if they can get a defenseman, you move Soucy down maybe to line 3, and then you put someone in the second spot. But yeah, that's been a sore spot for the Canucks for sure, is the defensive end of things. And certain guys not getting going, like Jake DeBrusk has got to do a little bit better than what he's been doing right now. But just looking at last night, Will Cooley, 1 goal, 1 assist. You've also got, contributions from pretty much everyone. So Sturkin not super busy there, only having to make 21 saves on 24 shots. On the other end, Arthur Seelov's having to make more saves. I didn't think Seelov's played that bad last night, actually. I thought that was one of his better games. And like I said, for all the things considered, you lose one of your best players in JT Miller. You find out the day of the game. I was quite happy with how the Canucks played last night. It was a fun game. I have a friend of mine who's a Rangers fan. I was DMing him this morning, talking about how, that was the type of fight. That's the type of game that you want to see out of the Canucks. Like, I'm not mad at this loss at all. I'm way, happier with them losing to the Rangers 4-3 than I am beating the Blackhawks 2-1 and barely scaping by. Like, that's way worse in my opinion. So good effort by the Canucks. We'll see how long Miller's out. Again, Besser was skating yesterday, as was Derek Forbort. So we'll see if those players get in the lineup anytime soon. I wonder who will be the starter for Canada. Maybe they do tandem style. They could be. And by the way, I see your other question there. I'll get to that too, John. By the way, I love having you in the chat here, John. One of my favorite guys to talk to. Starter right now. So it's interesting. I've seen a couple different lists. You got to think Aiden Hill, maybe. I would think Aiden Hill, probably Binnington, because you got to get someone with experience in there. And I've said this before as a wild card, and I would not mind him in there because, and I'm gonna make a little bit of an analogy here, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. But there's something to be said for a young goaltender who doesn't know any better. So I'll give you an example. Last year in the playoffs, Thatcher Demko goes out for the Canucks. Arthur Seelovs is in, and he played pretty well. And everyone's like, man, this is our future goalie and all that. What's happened this season? Seelovs hasn't been playing well. But I think there was that kind of almost I hate to use the word, but dumb confidence where it's like, you don't know any better. Like, you don't know the gravity of the situation because it's just like, I got to play. I'm not even thinking about it. I just got to go in there and play. I would want to put a Sam Montembeault on Team Canada just because I think he fits that mold as well, because I don't know how the goaltendings go. I don't feel good about Aiden Hill. I certainly don't feel good about Stuart Skinner if they're going that route. In fact, I would probably not have Skinner on my team. If I had to do the goalies right now, I would go Aiden Hill, I would go Binnington, and I would go Montembeault. Just, again, as a wild card. Just because, let's say Hill or Binnington melt down, throw in Montembeault, maybe he plays well. To me, he's young enough where I think there's a lot of potential. And I some of the games I have seen, like him shutting out Edmonton the other night, I'd be fine with him going in there. So that would be my vote. I actually really like Sam Montembeault. How do you think the Four Nation Cup will end up? I go USA, Sweden, Canada, Finland. I completely agree. It's going to be the States. They are way too strong. I mean, look at the back end. You've got, Adam Fox, Quinn Hughes. You've got, forwards. You've got Jack Hughes. You've got, there's so many, I'm even going to look at like projected lineups right now. I'm probably missing some names. Projected Team USA Four Nations. Let's see the projected roster. This was back in July. You got Cole Caulfield, Kyle Connor, Jack Eichel, Jake Getzel, Clayton Keller, Dylan Larkin, Austin Matthews, although he's injured right now, JT Miller, Brady Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk, Vincent Trocheck's American? Why did I think he was like European or something because of that last name? Oh, he's from Pittsburgh. No way. I didn't even know that. Yeah. Jason Robertson, Tage Thompson could be an option too if you wanted to go that route. They just have a complete wealth of, here, I'll show you the projected roster they're showing right now. Look at this. And this was back in July. I think a lot of these names still apply for the most part, but that's your forwards. Your defense, this is like picking an all-star team. Brock Faber, Adam Fox, Quinn Hughes, McAvoy, Keandre Miller, Jacob Slavin, Jack Werenski. And then your goaltenders, Demko I don't think will be in. You got Hellebuck. Forget Swayman, he hasn't been playing well. Hellebuck, Ottinger, and you could even do like a, I don't know, someone else. They just have a lot of options. Actually, one name I just remember for Team Canada, I wonder if they would go with, because I'm pretty sure he's Canadian. Connor Ingram? I wonder if they would consider him. Because he's playing all right. Wonder if he's a name they would look at, just because he's played a little bit better. What are his stats this season? I feel like he's playing all right. Okay, maybe not. 3.61, 871 save percentage. Okay, probably not. I take that back. Vancouver will be fine, keep their head above water until the top guys come back. That's kind of what I'm thinking too. And I just I don't think they will, but I hope they don't make like a panic move. Because let's be honest, last year they did give up to get Zadorov and Lindholm. Like, you can't be giving up first round picks and assets like that. Should Marc-Andre Fleury be on the team for experience? No, he's too old. How old's Marc-Andre Fleury? I think he's like almost 40. I was thinking that too, but he how many games has he even played this season? If this was Fleury from like a couple of years ago, maybe, but yeah, he's 39. I don't know. How many games has he played? He's played 4 games this season. Had a decent save percentage, but yeah, it's a tough one. It's a real tough one. I can see the argument. Let's put it this way. I'd rather have Fleury than Stuart Skinner. Do you think the second pair is the biggest problem in Vancouver? I do. Yeah, Soucy and Myers. What are they on the season? He's got to be like a minus something, because I feel like he's on the ice for like every goal. Yeah, he's a -7 this year, Carson Soucy. I don't know what's gone on with him, because he played all right last year. Granted, he was out a bit too. But yeah, you've got 18 games, 2 assists, 2 points, -7. Not good. Not good at all. And then you've got Tyler Myers, who I think same thing. Yeah, -5. You can't have your second pair being like, minus, be a factor on there. I think there's some crazy stat of like when Quinn Hughes is on the ice, the Canucks are like, I think they had like 300 goals compared to like 28 let in or something. It was crazy. So yeah, they got to do something about the second pair. And the thing is, they're trying to accrue cap space. What is their cap situation right now with the Canucks? Can they even afford to get anyone? I always got to refresh my memory here. They don't have any cap space. So yeah, they've got like 5,000. They'd have to trade someone, and I don't even know what that looks like at this point. So there we go. Keep your questions coming, everyone. Let's have a look at some of the other things that are going on right now. Actually, let's have a look at the standings. I'll give you my thoughts on that. Sorry, my voice is a little cracky. I do coach soccer last night. So in the Eastern Conference, you can see Washington at the top of the helm. You got Carolina shortly behind. The Devils, Rangers, Panthers, Leafs, Lightning, and Islanders. And then this is where the cutoff is. You got the Bruins, Flyers, Penguins, Ottawa, Sabres, Jackets, Wings, Canadians. So, saying that, though, I'm looking at this top 8. I think the only team I could see falling out is the Islanders, and I could see Ottawa getting in. But you look at it there, you got 16 points for last place. And to make the playoffs, you need 19. So it's not a huge difference. How many games in hand do they have? They have 19 games. The Islanders have 19 games. So they're only 3 points off. So, there's not a huge difference there. The West is a lot different. We'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, you look at it there. Boston, 21 goal differential. That's not good. The Penguins, 26. Penguins are actually worse than Montreal, and as are the Bruins. The Penguins and the Bruins have a worse goal differential than Detroit and Montreal are at the bottom. So that just goes to show you there. Now in the West, same thing we've seen for the last couple of weeks. We got the Jets, the Wild, the Knights have improved a lot. They're slotting into the number 3 spot. The Kings continue to play well. Calgary, even though they went through their bit of their slump, that early cushion they got has worked out well for them. They are currently with 23 points. You got the Stars, Oilers, Canucks. It's a pretty tight race here. Canucks have, 2 games in hand on, some of these teams here like Edmonton. They have 21 points. The Oilers only have 1 more point than them. So if Canucks can, get a game or 2, or like John said, hold them above water, they could be as high as, 4th here. Because look at this. The Kings, they have 19 games. They have 3 more points. So Canucks get a win or 2. Kings lose a game. They could be right in 4th place. So, and even the Knights, they're not that far off. The Jets are obviously with a huge lead, but then, saying that, you've got, obviously, the Kraken are a game behind. You got the Ducks, who are a game or 2 behind. Ducks only have played 18 games. And at the very bottom, you got Chicago, who is at the bottom with 13 points. They are dead last in the NHL, and closely behind them is the Nashville Predators. You got to think something's coming soon there for Nashville, whether it's a coaching change or, I don't know. Well, no, probably not a coaching change. Just got Andrew Burnett, last year or year before? They're going to have to do something. I don't know what it is. I get it. It's still disappointing that Russia isn't allowed. I agree. Russia should be allowed. I know there's a war going on and all that, but it would make the tournament that much better, that much more interesting. Completely agree with that. Is your boy playing hockey again this year, coaching again? Yes. So last year, so my son played his first season ice hockey last year. He's playing his second season this year, and then he does ball hockey in the off season when ice hockey isn't going on. And yeah, he's doing great. This year's a little bit more intense. They got I think 2 practices a week and a game. And he's loving it. He's playing really well. He's working hard out there. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm at the rink at least 3 times a week, which is great. So it's nice to just be there and just, I don't know. I'm nostalgic when it comes to going to hockey stuff, like the smell of the rink, all that. I love being there. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm doing a little bit of helping with coaching, but I'm basically managing my son's team right now. So we're doing, we're helping the kids out. They're under 9. So it's grade 2 and grade 3 kids. I heard if they fire Brunette, Trotz may go down to the bench. Great coach, not sure as a GM. Yeah, I don't know about him as a GM either. Those moves he's made have not panned out at all. So. Well, here's an interesting stat courtesy of Ryan Henderson. A lot of heat on Jake DeBrusk for his lack of production, but here's a weird one. After 18 games this season, 3 goals. After 18 games last season, 3 goals. So Jake DeBrusk does get a little streaky and, has some issues there. So what else do we got, guys? I'm too into football to pay much attention to hockey right now. What team has surprised you the most with how good they are? To me, it's Minnesota. Again, I did not expect them to be 12-3 and just guys elevating their games. Them and LA were the 2 teams I thought would really take, I thought they would be worse this year than better. So those are 2. Certainly didn't expect Winnipeg to be the best team in the league right now. And Washington's another team where last year, they barely made it in the playoffs. They got embarrassed in the playoffs. And then now they're, at the top of the East. So we'll see how this unfolds. But yeah, it's, to me, the interesting part is these supposed good teams that are struggling. Boston, Nashville, you got Edmonton, Vancouver, Pittsburgh. A lot of people thought Pittsburgh was going to make the playoffs. It really looks like something that's so far away from them right now. So that's been the most interesting part. I'm disappointed in the Red Wings. Yeah, I think the verdict's out that Steve Yzerman maybe not as smart as we all thought. It's a poorly constructed team. Let's go look at the team they've got. You got a guy in Lucas Raymond who, they signed to that big deal, and he's just been really disappointing this season. We're looking at it here in Detroit. They got guys tied up that just aren't, and granted, they have a little bit of cap space, but where are we here? Full roster breakdown. I always get mixed up with that. So you got Larkin, you got Raymond, you got DeBrincat, Kopp. All these guys are tied up, JT Comper, and then you're looking at the actual stats to back it up, and they're not playing so well. So if we go to the stats here, and we go take a look at, let's look at teams, Detroit. Let's look who's struggling, because even this is a good refresher for me to see who's doing what. So we're looking overall points right now. DeBrincat's got 17 points. He's minus 10, though. 8 goals, 9 assists. Lucas Raymond just 2 goals. You need more than that from a guy they just re-signed. 17 points, but still, we need some more production there. Dylan Larkin, 11 goals. He's off to a good start. That's not bad. Patrick Kane, surprisingly, has 3 goals. So Patrick Kane's got more goals than Lucas Raymond. That shouldn't be happening. Tarasenko hasn't really exactly worked out. Just 7 points throughout his time. JT Comper, I mentioned it there, just 6 points. And then you got guys in the near the bottom as well. Ben Sherratt, who's a -9. He's one of their big signings a couple of years ago. So they got to get it together. Completely agree. I thought they'd be better. Yeah, they didn't really make any moves in the offseason, though. The Tarasenko, I think, was their big acquisition, which hasn't been much. Have been watching the Kings. Have they been? Why has Byfield been good this season? Let's go look at the stats. I don't know. He played well when I saw him play Vancouver. I think it was last week or week before. So Byfield is 9 points, -1. He's all right. Probably could use a little bit more. I think you'll see him progress as the season goes on. I always like Minnesota, mostly because of their logo, though. Yeah, it's a cool looking jersey. When they were the North Stars, Minnesota was one of my favorites, best unis in history. I completely agree. This is still one of my favorite jerseys of all time. Like, look at this jersey. That is a sexy looking jersey right there. That green. Look at that. Beautiful. Love that. Love that color. The green and the yellow. It almost looks like the Anaheim Ducks colors from the movie. Look at that. There's young Mike Modano wearing the old jersey. Looks great. Really pops. And the Wild have obviously done a throwback to this with their own. That's a cool looking jersey. I mean, that really stands out. And I like that type of green as opposed to like the forest green that Dallas has. That's a very good looking jersey. Like if I had unlimited money, I'd get a North Star jersey. That looks so cool. I had a Modano I used for Shinny. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Mike Modano was great back in the day. Even though he was American, I wasn't supposed to like him. It's a big rivalry back there. Let's take a look at tonight's action, and we'll look a little bit ahead to some of the games that are coming up this week and the weekend, and then we'll get some more questions, and then we'll get out of here, guys. We got a lot of good insight, like I said already, from our guy Avry. So looking on the board right now, let's do a couple hockey bets. Anything we can put our money on. Anything that I like, I don't like. Both the totals I played last night did not cash, so I'm going to stay off the totals for a little bit, I think. I think I had the under in the Lightning and Panthers game, and that didn't hit because I thought, two good goaltenders, whatever. Okay, why am I not getting odds here for NHL? Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's look at some of the games here. So right now, you're getting a pretty steep price on the Hurricanes at -225, but I think you could parlay that with Dallas. You bring that number down a little bit. There's no way Dallas is losing at home to the Sharks. So you could parlay those two there, -225 with -510. I don't usually like parlaying anything over -300, but I really have a hard time seeing the Stars losing. The Leafs, the favorites at home against the Knights. I actually bet that. It looks like money's coming on the Knights because when I bet them this morning, they were like +102. I'm taking a stab at the Knights. The Leafs are still without Austin Matthews. They haven't been super consistent this season. I don't know who's starting for the Leafs tonight, but if it's not Stolarz, then I think that's another advantage for Vegas. Vegas is one of those teams that can surprise. So I think even right now at -108, it's worth a stab on Vegas as the Dogs. The Predators and Kraken, I did lay a little bit on Nashville, but again, they're a team that has not played that well this season. Kraken at home might be worth a stab at +122. Kraken did not play last night. And then the Kings are only -155 at home against the Sabres. I'm guessing because they probably played a lot, but I don't see how that doesn't hit either with the way the Kings are playing, and the Sabres have not been playing super consistent as well. As far as any totals, I could see the over hitting in the Panthers-Flyers game. Again, Carolina's got decent goaltending, but the Flyers, they're just not a great team, and I can see Carolina kind of walking all over them. So those are two totals and two bets, a couple bets that I like for tonight. If they expand the league, do you think they'll do 2 or 4 at a time to keep conferences divisions equal? I would think so, yeah. Atlanta and Houston seems like the front runners. I've been hearing the same thing. Would love to, it would be cool. I mean, and eventually they're going to go back to Arizona. I don't think there's any question. It's the third largest TV market in the U.S. They're for sure going to go back. And everything else, I don't like that green color on the jerseys, though it's great. I like the Eagles throwback Kelly green jerseys. Yeah, that's the same. Isn't the Eagles throwback kind of that same green color as the North Stars? Like you see the forest green behind me with the Quinn Hughes one. These ones are a bit different. Let's look at some other games coming up beyond tonight. Give you my take on them as well. So tomorrow night, let's have a look. Tomorrow night we've got the Lightning and Jackets. We'll see if the Jackets can do any damage at home. Lightning, like I said, had that good comeback win last night. Avalanche and Capitals, good tilt there. You got to take the Capitals at home. They're playing outstanding. Islanders and Red Wings, two not so great teams. Islanders have been playing a bit better. Maybe take them there. The Devils and the Hurricanes, another great Eastern Conference tilt. I'm going to probably bet the Devils at home on that one. Golden Knights and Senators. We'll see if the Sens can respond back to that loss against Edmonton the other night. Knights will be playing back-to-back, so we'll see how they look tonight before making a bet. Utah and the Bruins, I'd avoid that one. Sharks and Blues, I'd avoid that one. Panthers should beat the Blackhawks. The second that line comes out, bet the Panthers. I still think they're going to win on the road. The Rangers and the Flames, interesting one. I'll see what the line is on that one. If you're getting the Rangers anything close to plus money. By the way, the Rangers were almost plus money before the JT Miller news, and I bet them yesterday, and it ended up working out in my favor. Then you got the Wild and the Oilers. Oilers at home should win. And then on Friday, you got the Jets and the Penguins, sending the sacrificial lamb to fight the Jets. I think the Jets probably walk all over them. And you'd think the Sabres beat the Ducks, but I'd be a little bit careful about that as well. And then quickly, some games on Saturdays. Hawks and Flyers, avoid that one. Kings and Kraken. Kings should again continue to do well there. Flames at home. Wild probably take that one. You got the Panthers and Avalanche. I'm liking the Panthers there. Lightning at home against the Stars. If the Stars are plus money, might throw something on that. Devils and Capitals, again, a lot of teams playing a lot of nights. You got the Golden Knights again playing, so they'll be tired. Against the Canadiens, might be a good spot to bet Montreal there. Canucks should beat the Senators. They play better on the road anyways. If you're getting the Canucks in under 2-1, I think that's worth a stab as well. Jets should trample the Predators, and the Rangers and Oilers might put some money on the Rangers. The Oilers always seem to blow it. Okay, let's get some more questions for you guys. Like the Hartford jerseys too. Yes, one of the best jerseys as well as the Whalers. Really, really big fans of those. That's what I'm saying. It looks good on the jerseys. Oh, gotcha. I got high hopes for the Canucks road trip. Hopefully they can get some points. What is the Canucks schedule actually? So I know they're doing Ottawa. I'm assuming Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto. Is that the way they're going? Is they doing that trip? Okay, so Canucks and let's look at the schedule here real quick, because I think there's games here that they can win. Even without Miller and Besser, I think there's games that they can win. Canucks should beat the Senators. They should. I think the Canucks are a better team on paper, especially if you're getting Demko back. Who knows? The Bruins are a mess. If Demko comes back for that, definitely think the Canucks can win that one. Canucks should beat the Penguins. Canucks should beat the Sabres. Canucks should beat the Wings. The Wild, that's a team where I could see them struggling. And then they come home to play the Blue Jackets. I mean, I don't see any reason why the Canucks can't at least, at the minimum split this road trip, or at the maximum win all these games. I think these are all winnable games for the Canucks if they get their shit together. It's just a matter. And then I'm curious to see the deployment as well. Like if I'm the Canucks, play Seelovs again, get him more experience. They should be playing him against teams that are not as strong. And then you put Lankinen in for the bigger games. Give Lankinen some time off. I think personally, watching him play, I think he's a little worn out. And I think he needs to, I think he needs a bit of some time off. And I think you got to give Seelovs some. Again, I thought Seelovs played great last night. Let's keep that going. Play the Senators. Bruins, he can play against the Bruins, or if Demko's back, then you play Demko. If Demko's back, by the way, you do not do anything with Lankinen. You keep him until the end of the season. I have argued as well. I would be totally fine if the Canucks decided to keep Lankinen beyond this season. I think he's proven enough. I know he's a bit streaky, and I know people are like, whatever, but if you look at the underlying data, he looks solid. I would keep him around a bit longer and give Seelov some more time in Abbotsford. So that's what I would do, and have Demko as your starter. And I don't know what to expect from Demko. Like, I am not optimistic. What everyone has been hearing and what we've been hearing in the news is that Demko is having to play through an injury, basically. That's not good news. That's not he's cured. That's not he's going to be the same guy. I have no idea how he's going to look, and I think you have to keep Lankinen in his backup, because let's imagine the worst case scenario. Demko comes back, he plays a bit, he gets injured again, he's out, and maybe this is a career-ending injury. Like, I'm just saying that has crossed my mind, and I don't think I'm the only one who's thought that as well. So if you're playing it in that context, to me, you keep Lankinen around a little bit longer and wait until Seelovs is ready, and then eventually when Seelovs is ready, then you trade Lankinen. But I would do like a 2-year deal on Lankinen after this season, just in case, because I'm not convinced Demko's like going to be the same Demko. And if he's not the same Demko, and the Canucks have relied heavily on his goaltending over the last couple seasons, I don't know how far you're going to get without a healthy Demko. That's all I'm saying. Off topic, I'm still shook about Johnny, still so sad. Yeah, it is. It's just crazy. Like the guy in the prime of his career is just gone like that. I think the Flames can keep it up. Maybe. I mean, I don't see them doing any damage, but I mean, you got guys that are elevating their games like Anderson. It's been impressive to watch. Do you think Montgomery being out there will now accelerate other teams on the fence about coaching changes? Example, Pittsburgh. Maybe. I mean, we have seen that where like a lot of teams don't want to be the first coach to fire. I mean, I think if Sullivan leaves Pittsburgh, I think he goes straight to Boston. Like, I know they hired Sacco, but I think they maybe just bring him on as like, I don't know, some sort of assistant or something, and then promote him to full coach or something. Yeah, it doesn't sound like, again, just all the stuff I've been hearing about Demko is that like it's an injury he's basically gonna have to play through the rest of his life, and that it's not gonna be, the same Demko as. I mean, he may not. We're gonna have to see the first couple games, but like anyone expecting Demko to be at the high level he was in years past, I think you're being very naive about this. We got to see how it looks. And I hope it works out. I do. Like Vancouver, as much as they've been cursed as a franchise for a variety of different things since their existence, they've been the beneficiary of some really good goaltending dating back to them getting Roberto Luongo. Like basically since Luongo, it's gone Luongo, Markstrom, Demko. Doesn't get much better than that. You think of all the teams that have had goaltending issues, the Oilers, the Leafs, you name it. There's been so many, New Jersey, there's been so many teams that have struggled to find like a consistent goaltender. And you've seen such a goaltender carousel, more so I think than when I was growing up. Like I remember like you had goalies in the crease for like years. Like I remember like Hasek and Cujo and like Ed Belfour and like these guys. And some of those guys did move around a bit, but they were like mainstays that would stay with their teams for like a long period of time. Now I feel like it's really a carousel with a lot of goalies. Like you look at like, Philip Gustafson's bounced around. Connor Ingram's bounced around. You got, Linus Allmark now has bounced around a little bit. Like you're seeing more and more goaltenders, not have like mainstay homes, whether that's teams being too impatient or whatever it is. So I think that's something sort of keeping in mind as well. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Really good show today. Big shout again to my guy, Avry. I'll try and get maybe Troy on here back next week. I like having the guests on. It really kind of breaks the time up a little bit. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, either hit me up on social media or, again, come and join me or come and post something in the comments. We would love to hear from you guys as well. I'll be back next week talking more hockey. Who knows how the standings will look between now and next week, but I really appreciate all of you who tune into the stream. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.